Hey, all right, everybody, how's it going? Now then, a thing that popped into my mind yesterday, I think it was, I was on Twitter, and I happened to see a Twitter thing by Gary Martin, I think he's Modern Heroes on YouTube. He just did a John O'Groats video to counteract the McMaster and Jeff Cars video. So I was watching that, but I seen on Twitter something about fabricated EV stories. Now, if I go back maybe 8 years or so, I used to go on the Daily Mail, is it? The Daily Mail? I didn't used to go on. I didn't buy the Daily Mail. It just happened to pop up on a tablet now and again. And about EV stories. And you'd always go to the comment section, and they'd always be like, some people would say, they're never going to catch on these EVs or blah, blah, blah. But then there'd always be some story where, my neighbour bought an electric car, and he broke down on the M4 and he couldn't get towed back and his car was stuck there and he didn't know what to do. And it's always a neighbour or somebody that used to know or something like that, right? And some of the stories, the way they sort of sounds fabricated. And there used to be a few of them around, and it seems to me that that's getting more and more common when people actually take the time. They sit at their computers making up stories, but when you read them out, they sound like people who haven't been in an electric vehicle. So the story sounds a bit iffy. And the reason I say this is because I was looking at Gary Martin's Twitter, and he wrote something underneath, was a comment, I think, on one of his YouTube videos. And it was talking about some guy had said he was trying a Volvo EX90, I think it was. And Gary Martin said, it's a bit weird because that car isn't even out yet. Anyway, I'll put up on screen now what is said, and I'll try and pick it apart and see if it's true or if it is false. It must be false because, anyway, let's just put it up on screen, have a quick read of it, and then we'll try and pick it apart. Right, so it goes along the lines of, I tried an electric car, which I was told had a range of 363 miles. Woohoo! It was a Volvo EX90, costing 107k, with all the extras. Whoop whoop. I thought it would be equal to my Lexus RX 450h. I really wanted it to work for us as a family. It all sounds a bit suspicious already, doesn't it? However, it all fell apart. Now, if you read through it, right, he's ticked every box that something can go wrong on an EV. But the weird thing is this. If you look at it like this, right, he said on his trip to Bristol. Now, Gary Martin is saying that this car doesn't exist in the UK yet. And I think somebody said there's only 20 registered in Europe. And they might be like demo cars. But anyway, but this is the more weird part, right? We got to the services about 11 a.m, right? But if you go further down, he goes blah, 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 and he starts talking about the aircon, right? And the range dropped dramatically. Now, I did look up the Volvo EX90, and it has got a heat pump. And it does say, it wrote somewhere that it's got, they've tried their best to make the air conditioning and the heating system as efficient as possible. Now, this guy is complaining, and it was terrible. It dropped the range like mad. It disappeared. And maybe that's sort of a telltale fact that maybe the guy hasn't really drove an EV with a heat pump, because he's saying it's significantly lost loads and loads. And if you look further on as well, he says it was hot. He said the weather was hot. Now, he said he was in Bristol and the weather was hot. Now, it hasn't been hot in the UK for at least 2 months. I think there was a hot spell in October, early October sometime. But it hasn't been sweltering hot in the UK for let's say for at least 6 weeks or so. So that must be even further back when there wasn't any of these cars in the UK, which all sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? But let's have a little bit of a look. Let's have a further look down and see what else he says. So he says he was in a queue. That's ticked another box. He says when he actually got to the charger, it wouldn't charge. So he's rang GridServe and they couldn't get it to work. So everything's going wrong. It still wouldn't initialise. Then the car came up with a fault. I mean, come on. And, you know, then he rang Volvo Assist, and he said it took 45 minutes of troubleshooting. Then they advised me to go to the nearest dealer. Guess what? They were out of range, he says. So then he goes on to say he had to wait another 3 hours for the garage to turn up. I don't know what they did, but... and then his wife reminds him that the Lexus never went wrong. So this does sound like a fabricated story, doesn't it? Now, this person has taken a lot of time and effort to write this. So, do you think it's true? Let's look at the rest of the story then. You can tell me in the comment section if it's true. And also, what's the worst sort of comment you've had or seen where you think the story is fabricated? Tell me in the comment section. Because it would be bizarre if that story turned out to be true and somehow this person got hold of a car that doesn't exist yet. Because I think it says they're coming out in early 2024. They were going to come out earlier, but now they're coming out in 2024. But anyway, let's have another quick look at the end of that, because he has a second go. He has a second bite to the apple, and that goes wrong as well. So, long journey 2. We had to go to a family funeral in Scunthorpe. Well, no. Wait a minute. Yeah, no, I hope this isn't true, because otherwise I'm saying this and he had to go to a funeral. But has he added the funeral in because it makes it sound worse? I don't know. Look, I don't want to cast aspersions, but so far it sounds false. It'd be nice if it was documented so we could see if it was true. Anyway, let's go back to the story. So this time, it wasn't hot, he said, so no AC. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? It was hot before, but now it's not hot. Some roadworks on the M25, which slowed things. There was a crash on the M1, so that was nothing to do with it. Now, this is where it goes wrong again. Stop-start, range was dropping. Now, stop-start doesn't drop the range. If you stop, you stop. He also said the aircon, he didn't need the aircon on, right? So he stopped, but when you stop, you're not moving, you're not using energy on the motor, are you? So, So there you go. He said that doing stop-start had made his range just disappear. But he said he wasn't using the aircon, and all of a sudden, his battery range just disappeared. So that sounds fabricated. It does sound definitely like a person who doesn't own an EV or hasn't driven an EV, because his story is sort of... I don't know. It seems like a lot of people go to a lot of effort to make up these stories. Unless they're paid to make up these stories. I doubt it though. But it just goes to show, doesn't it, how much people actually hate EVs when they go to all this trouble to make up stories to make them sound terrible. I don't know what's going on, man. I don't know what's going on. It's a bit strange to me. But like I said, if you've got any cracking stories or bad stories, whichever way you want to look at it, put it down in the comment section. And do you see these stories a lot? Because I seem to see these stories, and when you read them, you think, that just doesn't sound right to me. It just doesn't sound right. Anyway, that's what I want to talk about. Fabricated stories for EVs. If you like this video, go on, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hoo-hoo!